friend, student, super excited. I have a former student of mine who's, man, a grown professional now, Mr. Carsen Casica, here today talking about, well, I'm excited, fitness, nutrition, all the works. We're going to go all through it. So, Carsen, first of all, thank you so much for your time. I know it's valuable.
Absolutely. Happy to be here.
All right. Thanks, brother. Well, first of all, Carsen, getting right into it. Could you tell us, what is your official job title and what you kind of do? We'd love to know about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have two positions right now that work hand in hand. So I'm a certified personal trainer. So with that, I work one-on-one with clients and get them to their goals, whatever that may be, weight gain, weight loss, or a whole nother range of things. So post, ACL tears or anything along the lines of that, whatever it may be that involves fitness in terms of training, that's where they would come to me and I get them from point A to point B, which is their goal. So I work mainly one-on-one with that, but I also do a lot of group work and sometimes bigger groups and so on and so forth. And then I'm also a certified nutrition coach as well. So with that, I work with clients to kind of help them get a better understanding of their diet. I like to take the stress out of their diet. I think a lot of people stress when they don't have an idea of we weren't always taught nutrition. We're getting better at it now. But a lot of people just don't have a good idea of hey, what should I be eating? What does a healthy meal look like? What do I need to be doing to gain muscle? And so I come in and kind of provide that knowledge. But then I also set out a roadmap for our goals. So, hey, over the next 8 weeks, this is what we're going to tackle. And we'll take it one step at a time, building habits and kind of making those lifelong habits in place. And so I also am a fitness nutrition specialist with nutrition. So a lot of my nutrition work caters to what goes on in the gym and how we can maximize performance and maximize recovery. Oh, so that's what I'm doing right now. Yeah.
That's awesome. And actually that's great because I know I've got a couple questions from students related to that, the idea of nutrition and gains and all that. So great. We're going to hammer you with that in just a little bit. So it's like you have two jobs. That's pretty cool. Actually, that sounds like that doesn't get boring ever with having two things going on. With that being said, what does a day in your life look like? And if it's different for, your personal training versus nutrition coach, please feel free to let us know. But just walk us through, what does a typical day look like in this field? Who are you working with, et cetera?
Yeah, absolutely. So typically what we see in the job field is we hear about the 9 to 5 a lot, and there's a lot of different jobs that aren't 9 to 5s, but we typically get that. But with personal training, those aren't necessarily our hours. We train when people aren't working, right? So typically at the gym, we'll start from anywhere at 5:30 a.m. in the morning to 5 a.m., 6 a.m. Typically, that's the range a personal trainer would start. And at first, people are always like, whoa, that's so early. And I was just talking to a client about it, but I'm completely in sync with it now, and I feel great about it. I wake up at 4:30 every day. And again, people are like, whoa, but it's just how my line of work is, and I enjoy it. I like seeing the sun come up. I like being up early when it's quiet and getting after it. So basically, I would get to work at 6 a.m. and start with the client. And sessions are typically an hour. So 6 to 7, I'll work with the client, 7 to 8, so on and so forth. We're really busy up until 9, 10 a.m. when people have to go to work. Middle of the day, you get more so people that are retired or entrepreneurs. So you still have room to work with middle of the day, your schedule. And then evenings, we can be busy as well when people are getting off work. So the thing is with a personal training, your schedule isn't always set. You kind of work to get set times, and whatnot with your clients. But on a given day, you could have clients out of town. So, you're just working with your clientele based on the gym that you're at. Some also have work for you to do in between. But yeah, so typically our busy times are before people start work, after, and then you can usually fill slots in the middle of the day. And same goes with nutrition coaching. However, with that, I'm able to do a lot of that on Zoom, whereas personal training, not so much. So that one, I can kind of work a little bit different hours with that one just because it's more convenient. So that's kind of what a day would look like in terms of scheduling.
Okay. That makes sense. So, I mean, theoretically, you could be working really long days, early morning and late night, depending on how you choose to schedule that. But that is typically in your control then.
That's the thing. Yeah. So you are in complete control, which I've always liked too. So here's my schedule. So Monday I do 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. here. And that's my day I leave early. I can do my grocery shopping, stuff like that. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I'm in it to win it. I'm here at 6 a.m. I'm going throughout the day. I may leave middle of the day to go grab a coffee or lunch with friends. And then I'm back in the evening. So I may be here from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. But again, I love what I do. I have no problem at all with that. And then Fridays, I'll typically finish up around 3 p.m. and then have a weekend. So that's my schedule that I built in. It's important to build that in. If not, you kind of just get crazy with your hours. Like if I was doing 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. 5 days a week, it would start to kind of have a backfire on me, but also my clients as well. So it's just managing, that and yeah, being in control of it.
Wow. Yeah, I could imagine. Yeah, you being burned out wouldn't really help your clients either.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Okay, so you find that when you're personal training, you're in a gym a lot then for a lot of your work, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. So, especially, well, my line of work before, I was going to a lot of like client buildings and doing it. So I was traveling a bit more, but my line of work right now and in the past is at a specific gym. And so I love being inside the gym. It's where I feel most comfortable and confident. And so I like being in the gym all day. It's how I've always been and how I hopefully always will be.
Nice. So as far as nutritionists and say you're zooming in that, is that something you meet with people could it be a different package depending? Do you meet with them weekly? Do you meet with them every single day? Just curious about that kind of commitment in that area. I'm pretty ignorant to that. Sorry.
No, that's a great question. So everyone is different in terms of like how we want to tackle it, but typically like what I've been doing lately, we sell 8-week programs and I'll try to get them in weekly or at least bi-weekly because I'm giving them goals to work on. So I had some nutrition clients this morning. Protein was a little bit lower. I'm looking at their diet and protein's a little bit lower if we want to maximize muscle. So we sit down and look at, hey, how can we add more protein to your diet? Hey, can we get some extra egg whites in that breakfast this morning? And then lunch, let's add a little avocado spread to get some healthy fats, stuff like that. I'll give them some goals to work on with like accountability check-in sheets, and I'll see them the following week so that one, we could check in and see what went wrong, what went well, and what we can improve on. So typically with a nutrition client, I like to see them at least once a week. It can range, but typically once a week with that.
Oh, awesome. That's great. That's great. So these are super fascinating, so different than my job. I love it, but we're both cheering people on, right? Like we're trying to get people to their goals. Hopefully, though, yours are more motivated about it. Mine, I think I have to force their goals on them sometimes. Not everybody's excited about chem. No judgment.
I hear
no judgment.
Yeah.
So could we go through, I think it really helps our students, like your path. You graduated from high school, and then is this the path you were planning on taking? Were there any forks in the roads and changes to finding your passion? Just curious on how from high school you ended up getting kind of to where you are today. I think that really helps paint a picture for students that might be called to this line of work.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was always into sports, right? Well, what happened, I was at Carl Sandburg when I was a sophomore, working out, starting to build some muscle. Over the summer, I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease and I got pretty sick with it. I lost about 30 pounds and I was always a skinny guy. I didn't have 30 pounds to give. So it got to like skin and bone. And so it was just a low point in my life. And from there, I remember looking at myself in the mirror, I'm like, man, I really got to, change this. I don't like the way I look. And so I had to build my way back up and I didn't know how to do it or I didn't have any knowledge. And I was like, I think the gym is the way to go. And I was like, but I don't know anything about it. But I thought there's day one, start with day one, read one article on how to build muscle and try to stay consistent with that every day. And I became obsessed with it to see like my body change and that I can make an impact with what I do really showed a lot to me. And so the course of that, regaining that 30 pounds, getting healthy again, it felt like a calling to me that now this is my line of work to help other people because I'm not the only one that was struggling with that. And I saw how much it did for me. So through high school, I kind of started studying personal training, or I studied fitness a lot, but personal training towards the end of my, time at Carl Sandburg. And that's when I made the decision. I was like, you know what? I want to be a personal trainer in the city of Chicago. It's exactly what I wanted to do. And so I researched my schools, what had a good program. I found DePaul University had a good exercise science program. I visited, awesome campus, just great vibes overall. And so I went for it. I went there. I studied exercise science. I got my personal training certifications, nutrition certifications, graduated, and then started working at some of these big clubs down here. And just always continuing education is one of the biggest pillars that I live by. And so with that, I've always just grown on what I've done. And so my advice would be, we all start somewhere, but be courageous and take that leap. And if it's something that you really want, you just have to work towards it, and be confident in yourself.
Yeah, I love that. Was it nerve-wracking when you just started getting into like the personal training and having a client, right? I mean, you're young, you're passionate about it, but did that ever become a thing like in your head you had to get over? Just curious about that.
Oh, absolutely. Like extreme butterflies going into like our first couple of sessions. I'm like a 20-year-old kid at the time, and I'm working with like a 50-year-old cardiologist out of Northwestern. I'm like, wait, how am I coaching this guy? But then I have to remind myself, no, this is my line of work. He's in my area here. Like, be confident. It's not what you say, it's how you say it a lot of the times. And so, but I think sometimes that's what we need to feel in life are those butterflies. It means that we are doing something outside of our comfort zone, and that's a sign of growth. And I didn't necessarily know that at the time, but now I know that, and I kind of search for that feeling now. So sure, I'm more comfortable with clients now, but I'm always looking at what's going to make me scared and what's going to kind of give me some fear that I can go tackle and overcome.
Yeah. Lifelong learning, man. It's a good habit to get into. So that's great. And it only benefits not only you, but your clients as well. Awesome.
Man, absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you for walking through that. And that now the certifications you got, was that also through your school, or was that like after school on the side, other outside things?
Yeah. So certifications you can get on your own. It's like a self-paced. So my recommendation is anyone's looking to get into it, look up personal training certifications. There's a bunch of different ones, and they're all kind of have different things that they may specialize in. And so like you find one that fits well with you. Like mine is through the National Academy of Sports Medicine. I found that I really agreed with like their message and everything. And so then you just work at your own pace. They give you a textbook, they give you online courses, quizzes, note cards, stuff like that, just like studying for like a class,
Okay.
And at the end, you would take the exam. You'd go to like a testing center, wherever it may be, take the exam. And if you pass, you're certified. And then it's just keeping up with it. So every 2 years, you have to recertify and show that you're doing continuing education and you're caught up to date on everything else,
Yeah. Oh, that makes sense. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I had no idea how that worked. So that makes complete sense. Awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you've got these two jobs now. I have a couple questions because we know you are valuable on this input. I have quite a few students, very big into like you, passionate about exercise. They like to see them transforming themselves and their body and kind of taking control of that. A common question relates to nutrition and taking care of yourself, but also getting those gains, whether that's in size like mass or in strength. Do you have any advice for high school students? Let's start with specifically, because I know that they're young adults growing in that. Any tips or that nutrition-wise, gym-wise, that can help them get closer to those goals, but in a proper way?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, it's important to know that you're working at your own pace. I remember being in high school, we're all concerned with, hey, what's that guy benching? What's that guy squatting? Completely throw that out the window and focus on yourself. Everyone's going to be different, and don't even focus on the weight on the bar. Focus on getting a good workout and feeling that mind muscle connection and just progressing over time. Your goal in the gym is always get better. So whether that's adding a little more weight over time or adding more reps, whatever it is that you're progressing, you got to give your body that stimulus to build more muscle. So focus on what you're doing and not what everyone else is doing, and focus on getting better over the course of time, whether that's weekly or bi-weekly, and whether you're adding more weight or adding more reps or adding more overall time in the gym. Those are all forms of progression which need to be implemented for muscle growth to happen.
Okay.
The next thing with diet is I really want you guys focusing on your protein goal first and foremost. Diet, we can go on for hours and hours and hours, but to focus on your protein goal is really what's going to promote that muscle growth to start with. So typically, like what I recommend and what the research says is a simple formula to determine your protein goal needs is like typically like 1 gram times your body weight is how many grams of protein. So I'm 158 pounds right now. So my protein range is about 150 grams, or you can even go a little bit less, sometimes like 0.8 of a gram, is what the research says now to really maximize muscle growth. So to have that number and to be able to understand that and work towards it is a good starting point with your diet. So to one, start to recognize what you're eating and putting into your body by taking like a diet log, just writing out so you can see it. And then starting to put some simple math into it too, so saying, okay, like I'm getting about 120 grams of protein in right now. I got to get 140 grams in. And so with that, you just have to do a little math and find ways to add more protein into your diet. So that's what I would say is start with that first. And with that, you can make a lot of progress. And then it's just once you feel confident with that, you can start adding more layers onto it. Okay, what should my calories look like, carbohydrates, so on and so forth, the different food sources we're having. But ultimately, I don't want you guys to overcomplicate it. Focus on getting stronger in the gym and focus on hitting your protein goals. And that will undoubtedly help you build muscle.
Oh, I love it. Thank you. So that's super clear and great, right? Like achievable, start with one thing, get good with that, and then grow them from there. Makes sense. Thank you. How about this common question students get that I've actually heard them kind of debate about? Is it possible to, like taking care of yourself and staying trim and lean and still gain muscle? There's some people who feel like you've got to bulk and add lots of extra calories, right? And then you trim down. And some people say there's a way to gain that muscle and strength while allowing your body to still say your trim fit self, however you feel comfortable. Any comments or ideas to say about that? Just curious, your thoughts as a nutritionist.
Yeah, so essentially what people are thinking and what's going on here is that when you're in a caloric surplus, so meaning you're eating more calories in a day than what you normally are, right? If you're normally averaging 2,000 calories and you go to 2,250 calories in a day, that's in a calorie surplus with that extra energy. That's how you maximize muscle growth. But with the calorie surplus, often is what's going to happen is you will gain a little bit of weight with that. So that's that trade-off. But you can still gain muscle with your calories being relatively the same as they are now. So to answer your question, yes, it is actually possible to build muscle while also trimming down. It's a little bit more rare. If you're a beginner, you can do it. If you're a bit obese, you can do it. There's certain situations, especially if you're just starting out. But typically, if your goal is to maximize muscle, you will gain a little bit of weight in that process because that's just physics, right? I mean, if you're in a calorie surplus, you will gain weight. And if you're in a calorie deficit, you will lose weight. But just know that you can still build muscle without being in a calorie surplus. You just won't be able to maximize muscle. So yes, it is possible, but there's other routes to go in terms of people may bulk for a period of time. And then after that, they'll try to cut off that fat. So they'll maximize their muscle through a period of time, and then they'll bring their calories back down, keep their protein high, and kind of unveil those gains.
Awesome. Thank you. Crystal clear. I appreciate that. And I know that's a debate we hear a lot in the gym, not even with high schoolers, but as adults as well. So thank you for that input. As far as you working with your clients in that, do you ever get into like the why they're trying to maybe gain muscle or that? Is there a mental side of training or the nutritionist side that helps or that's important? Just curious.
Yeah, it's one of the main things that I focus on with my clients. Because again, if we go back to why I started, there's that why, there's that deep passion that gets me up every morning at 4:30 a.m. that keeps my energy high and keeps me driven. I need that out of my clients as well. So when I sit down with them and close room like that, we'll talk about their goals and they'll say, hey, I want to lose 10 pounds. And I'll say, oh, that's awesome. Let's set a date for that. I was like, why do we want to lose 10 pounds? You want to feel better, look better? Is the doctor prescribed it? And then they'll go on further. And then making them feel comfortable, we'll go even further than that. You say, you know what, I haven't actually felt comfortable in my shoes lately. I feel like if I can get in shape, I can feel confident, attack a lot of other layers of my life. I've always felt like I've been overweight. And so to finally tackle it is a huge obstacle for me and a room for growth. Something like that. And that's how I get those clients to really buy in, because someone just wants to lose 10 pounds and it's tough and that alarm clock goes off and they get tired. They can easily hit snooze and cancel. But when there's that deep driven passion, they're going to continue to come in, put in the work and stay disciplined. And that's what's going to help us get to those goals over the long haul. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's an emotional thing, right? I think we all look into it ourselves and are self-analytical. So great. Thank you for that input. So respect your time. Last question. Any in the working world, looking back in high school, anything like that, any tips or skills you would say that are just like, hey, students, remember this is valuable, or I wish I would have known that? Any type of last thoughts in that? We'd be all ears and appreciate.
Absolutely. So I would say one is to be kind. The energy you give out is always going to be the energy you get back. So it goes a long way to be kind. That's one simple one. But number two, more importantly, would be to be courageous. Go on, take leaps. This is your one life. There was a million people that told me I was way too skinny to be a personal trainer, way too small. One of my first clients ever was like, he's my trainer. They're like, he's so small. And I was like, shrunk me so much. But you have to stick with what you believe in and be courageous. You know, I was way too skinny when I first started personal training, but I had a driven goal to be something and be someone. And so to be courageous and take that leap of faith, you know, you'll never regret that decision right there. So go out and be brave.
I love it, man. I love it. Well, Carsen, we can't thank you enough for the insight in that. And my students are going to appreciate this. I know health and fitness is a huge part of everybody's life, and something that hopefully isn't just for a small, but our entire life, right? That's a lifelong thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time, Carsen. We really appreciate it, brother.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
Thanks, man.